Life with an ADHD partner is never dull, that's for sure. Spontaneity, excitement, fun, conversations about literally anything. But as with everything, there are going to be challenges. And ADHD challenges in relationships can lead to arguments, resentment, and heartbreak. And ultimately, this means that relationships with ADHD involved can lead to an increase in divorce rates. But it doesn't have to be this way. So in this video, I'm going to break down the main challenges in ADHD relationships, break them into the two main categories, and then give you some crucial advice to get the best out of your ADHD relationship. So as a fellow ADHDer, I get it. I was late diagnosed and I left a string of broken relationships behind me. Undiagnosed ADHD can be a major factor in relationship challenges, but even when ADHD is diagnosed, there are many moments where it can be easy to misalign with your partner. You know, as the ADHDer, it can feel like you're just not understood. And if you're a non-ADHDer, then it can feel like you're a nagging parent trying to pull a relationship together. And this is a really common cycle that I've actually done a deeper dive video on, which I'll link to above and in the description down below. And then there's dual ADHD relationships, which can either have the same problems or they can cancel each other out and it's completely harmonious. But I've worked with thousands of clients and some of my most successful members have ADHD involved in the relationship. So what is it that successful couples with ADHD do differently compared to the ADHD relationships that end in separation or divorce? Well, there are four main overarching challenges in ADHD relationships, and they can actually be narrowed down even further. Let me explain. So there are four main challenges when it comes to ADHD relationships. They can be the executive function challenges. So these challenges are struggles with our prefrontal cortex, which is time management, etc. And this manifests as things like managing schedules, remembering important tasks, deadlines. Then there's disorganization. So this is difficulty with planning and follow through, breaking down complex tasks, prioritization, unfinished projects, messiness. Then there can be an impact on communication. So not only things such as forgetfulness and miscommunications, but also things like losing your thread mid-sentence, not being able to fully focus on what the other person's saying, and being impulsive with the way that we speak. And this can create a cycle of frustration where partners feel like they're not being heard or understood. And then there's emotional dysregulation. So this can mean emotions can swing quite wildly, and there can be difficulty regulating these emotions. And just by looking at this in a cycle, you can see how easily things can escalate out of hand. So when there's executive function challenges, losing track of time, an ADHD can spend too long on things, and that can then lead to, more disorganization, which is, things not being done at all or things getting messy, forgotten about. And then when partners try and talk about it, then there's the struggle with communication. So the ADHD partner can struggle focusing on what the non-ADHD partner is saying or trying to process all the information at the same time. There could be a disconnect. And the non-ADHD partner doesn't know how to communicate in the right way. So that causes a disconnect as well. And then that leads to the ADHDer feeling misunderstood and, not feeling good about the situation. And they can struggle to manage that emotion. And the non-ADHDer can feel let down, uncared for. And then because all of this causes even more stress, then this leads to an even bigger struggle with executive function. Stress has the biggest impact on ADHD symptoms. So you can see how easily this cycle can happen. And all of these things together can put a significant strain on relationships. Partners may feel overwhelmed or unable to provide the necessary support. They may feel frustrated with the lack of organization and not be able to feel like they talk through it with the communication. So these are the four main challenges specifically that impact relationships. We look at all of these, they can seem kind of disconnected and sort of random, but they can actually be neatly categorized into two separate categories. So relationships in general are actually very, very simple. In fact, there are only ever two types of relationship problems, just two. And these challenges are basically where you and your partner disconnect on something. There's a friction between you and your partner. And these two challenges are emotional challenges and logical challenges. And these are the only two challenges that you will ever come across in any relationship. And if you look back at the main ADHD relationship problems, you can see how these break down. So we have the executive function. This is a logical challenge. This is all about timekeeping. These are the executive functions, the logical functions within the brain. The next is the disorganization. This is about prioritization. This is about tidiness. This is about organization. This is a logical challenge. Then you have communication. This is an emotional challenge. The struggles with communication, very, very emotional. And then you have the emotional dysregulation, which is also, surprisingly, an emotional challenge. So when you look at these two split evenly this way, you can see how one is more focused on the logic, one is more focused on the emotion. The problem comes is that as ADHDers, We can think a lot of our challenges that we face in relationships are logical ones. They're the getting organized, getting focused, productivity, timing, etc. And even if you're the partner of an ADHD, you can look at the organizational side of things, get frustrated and think, well, these are logical challenges. But the truth is that there are just as much emotional challenges that come with ADHD relationships. Especially when you look at communication and emotional dysregulation, they have the challenges behind it as well. But if you also look at the logical challenges, the build-up of these logical challenges can also turn into emotional challenges as well. As logical challenges start to slip the net, things get forgotten, things aren't organized, these logical challenges can build up and become emotional challenges. So much of the ADHD relationship advice out there is overcoming these logical challenges, which is strong advice because ultimately we do struggle with these logical challenges, but most of it, when it comes to relationships, actually become emotional challenges. It becomes our interpretation of events. It becomes the communication around these logical challenges, how we talk about them, how we see them, how we navigate these challenges. So ultimately, the point I'm trying to make is that the majority of them end up becoming emotional challenges, and these are really important to face as well. So how do we get through these two types of challenges? Well, obviously there's only so much detail that I can go in a YouTube video, but if you do want to deeper dive into all of this, then join me on my free relationship bootcamp where you'll learn the same tools and skills to navigate ADHD relationships and start turning your relationship around today. Click on the link in the description to get started. So I'm going to break it down into the logical solutions and the emotional solutions. And just before I jump in, I want to preface this here is that when it comes to ADHD challenges, there is no perfect solution. And I'll address this a little bit later on. But if you're looking for a cure to ADHD, or you're looking for one specific tip that will solve all of your problems, that's not going to happen. But I'm going to give you some really crucial principles to build upon in order to move forward within your ADHD relationship. So when it comes to these logical challenges, make sure you're approaching things as equitable, not equal. So the whole idea of a 50-50 relationship is nonsense. No relationship is equal, nor should it be. You are different people. And oftentimes we can mistakenly fall into this trap of looking for equality. You know, you do 5 chores, I do 5 chores, you earn $50,000 a year, I earn $50,000 a year. There's this myth that equality should happen in every single relationship. But equality is a myth. And I actually do a deeper dive video, which I'll link to above and in the description down below. But ultimately, we're going for equitable, not equal. So there's the difference between equitable and equal. Equal is giving everyone the same size shoes. Equitable is giving everyone shoes that fit. So approach your relationship as equitable. Everybody in your relationship has different needs, different strengths, different weaknesses, and approach it that way. And when it comes to these logical challenges that you have, go through the logical tasks, the day-to-day tasks in your relationship, and figure out what you are good at, figure out what your partner's good at, figure out what you like and what your partner doesn't like. As you approach these, figuring out what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what you like, what you don't like, when it comes to tasks that one of you likes and is good at, that person should do that task. It's not a chore, it's good. It's something that you like doing and you're good at it. That's easy. For the tasks that both of you are bad at and don't like, outsource them. And we'll talk about that in a minute. For the tasks that one of you are good at but don't like, talk amongst yourselves about how to handle them. So let's say, for example, you're good at mopping the floor, but you hate it. And your partner is bad at mopping the floor and hating it. This leaves you in a difficult position because you both don't like it, but one of you is good at it. So this leaves you in a position to discuss this. If you want to take it on because you're good at it, but you don't like it, then great. But you have to do that without resentment, without holding it as a scorecard. If you feel like you will do, then you can outsource it. You can outsource it to somebody else. Or you can collate all of the tasks together that one of you is good at and doesn't like and share them out equitably. And if it becomes too much for one person or it doesn't feel fair to them, then you can outsource it. But when it comes to looking at the tasks, you have to look at all of the tasks that cover all of your strengths, not just one person's strengths. So ADHD does come with strengths, just as neurotypicality comes with strengths. You need to look at all of the different tasks that need to be done and start divvying them out according to strengths and according to whether you like them or not. And this brings me on to the next point, which is outsourcing. So a lot of people get these really, really rigid ideas of what a partner should do. So for example, a man should do the DIY jobs in the relationship. The woman should do all the cooking and cleaning or whatever it is. But this is bullshit. There are no shoulds in a relationship. No matter what other people say, no matter what your church says, no matter what your parents say, no matter what your friends say, there are no shoulds in a relationship. The only thing that you have to abide by is the law. So that is the only should in a relationship. So, you know, when your friends say, oh, he should be doing this or she should be doing this, that's nonsense. All that you have to do is talk with your partner to decide what is best for both of you. That is the only should. You should be doing what's best for the relationship, mutually agreed. And this is why it's important to look at outsourcing as an option. So for example, people say, well, you should be cooking all the meals in your relationship. This is what you should be doing in your relationship. But let's say you're an ADHDer and you struggle with cooking. You don't like it because you're bad at it. And let's say you're a non-ADHD partner and you don't like cooking and you're bad at it. There's two people who don't like cooking and are bad at it. Why would you suffer through cooking all the meals in your relationship because everyone else says that you should do it? Get somebody else to do it. An ADHD brain can be bad when it comes to numbers. You can sit there and moan and complain about how this person struggles with numbers and be in the same situation forever, or you can find someone that can do it for you. Let's say you struggle with disorganization and you need to have your day planned. You can pay a virtual assistant $15 an hour once every workday to set up your calendar. Even in a minimum wage office job, that $15 an hour to set up your hour for the day to give you a solid plan for it is worthwhile because you're going to get more done and you're going to earn back that $15 and more. So if there are things that you have challenges with and you don't enjoy them, you have two choices. One, get better at it, do it, but hate it, sapping all of your energy out, or get someone else to do it. A member of mine, before we started working together, argued with his wife about cleaning all the time. They both hated cleaning. He has ADHD, so it tired him out. She used to be forced to clean up as a punishment by her mom, so she hated cleaning. She associated cleaning with just punishment. But the cleaning had to be done. So after working together, what they saw is this was a logical challenge in their relationship, slowly becoming an emotional challenge in the relationship. And they decided to nip this in the bud and get it figured out. And they paid their next door neighbor's kid $10 every day to come over in the evening, wash the dishes, put things away, wipe down the surfaces, and give the place a little tidy. So that was $50 a week. So they did it every work day. But that $50 a week gave them the freedom to go to bed calm, to go to bed happy, to not have a big discussion, to not have this struggle between each other, and they can wake up in a much better mood the next day. And what happened is they both said to me that this saved their relationship. And this sounds very minute. All it takes is a little bit of outside the box thinking in order to overcome these things. Next is the environment. So when it comes to logical challenges with ADHD, so much of ADHD management is environmental. So yes, reminders, alarms, timers, they're there to help, but don't just think that it will work like that. Having alarms to help us through the day is good, but if your place is filled with junk, clutter, tons of decor, constant music, sounds, noise, uncomfortable temperatures, then timers, clocks, alarms, they're not going to help you focus because it's much more than just having one item or one thing. There's no point in having timers and clocks if they're in a sea of boxes or there are bunches of clothes piled up ready to be a distraction, right? So the environment is so crucial to ADHD. So having a calm, clear environment that you can focus in, reducing the amount of distractions, helps to overcome a lot of these ADHD challenges. My advice to you would be to reduce the amount of distractions, and then reduce them again, and then reduce the amount of distractions the third time. And only then will you start to get close to a good ADHD environment. Next is something I touched on a little bit earlier, which is what we call the perfect solution fallacy. So straight up, there is no perfect solution for ADHD, just like there is no perfect solutions for any relationship. So don't trick yourself into thinking that things would be better if ADHD wasn't there. Or if your husband would only just do this one thing, then all of the problems would be solved. The reason why so much advice doesn't work for people in general is because they don't make it work. So many people will read a book and then they will try something once and it will fail or it won't be perfect. And then they just give up on it. They walk away and they say, well, it doesn't work. It's a waste of time. What's the point? And they fool themselves into thinking that out there is this perfect, unfailing solution that will solve every single problem. We just need to find it. But the problem is that there isn't, and you won't. So you have to focus on what you have in front of you and make it work for you. So when it comes to relationships are systems. And I've done a deeper dive video, which I'll link to above and in the description down below, about relationship systems and seeing relationships as systems. You have to think in systems in order to get the outcomes. So it's literally in the name. Relationships are relations between two different things, right? And that's what systems are. Systems are relations between different things. And you have to think in systems in order to get the outcomes. So for example, you can't just create a business to generate $1 million, right? You can't just say, here's a button, I generated $1 million. You have to start your business, and then you have to start thinking about how each part relates, how each part works in relation to the other to make things work. That is system thinking. And that's how relationships need to be seen. So thinking that there's a button to generate a good relationship, or there's an off button for ADHD, is not realistic. And this is the perfect solution fallacy. This idea that you can just snap your fingers and have a solution to every problem. It's not. There are many, many, many small problems that need to be solved and overcome and developed by thinking in systems. So relationships are about cultivating this compatibility. And it's your responsibility as a partner watching this to start leading by leading the cultivation of this compatibility. So what are the solutions when it comes to the emotional challenges within ADHD relationships? Well, the first thing is don't be in denial. So don't pretend that ADHD doesn't exist in the relationship. If you're the ADHD watching this, don't pretend that you don't have these challenges. Pretending that ADHD is this non-existent thing in your life is going to lead you down the road of failure, right? So it's important to acknowledge these challenges and prepare to take accountability for them. But if you're the non-ADHD partner watching this, then that also means you don't pretend that your partner doesn't have ADHD. So this means that don't pretend that there's some sort of normal way of doing things, like we discussed earlier. There are no normal relationships, period. So you need to do what's best for your relationship, not what you think is best for the relationship. So if you're trying to treat your partner like you would do a neurotypical partner, you're not thinking in systems. You're not thinking in the way of understanding equity in the relationship. And you're not trying to figure out what works for the relationship. You're stuck in this narrow view of what a relationship should be. And that is going to lead you to failure. Next, it's important to manage your emotions. So you are accountable for your emotions. Not your partner, not anyone else. You are accountable for your emotions. So that means you have to actively manage them, regardless of whether your partner is doing the same right now or not. So if you're the ADHD and you struggle with emotional dysregulation, you are accountable for your emotions. So you can't sit there and say, well, I have emotional dysregulation, so my partner needs to accommodate me. You have to be the person who is in charge of your emotions. That means that if you feel angry, if you feel sad, if you feel upset, you need to learn how to manage them. And you need to learn how to overcome the challenges of emotions. It's not down to your partner to do that. But this also means as the non-ADHD partner, you are also in charge of your emotions. And that means that if you know your partner struggles with emotional dysregulation, you need to manage your emotions. You need to be in charge of how you look after your emotions. You can't say, well, it's not fair because my partner has emotional dysregulation, so therefore that makes me angry. That's not the way it works. And this is one of the controversial things that a lot of people don't like to talk about, unfortunately, but your partner doesn't make you angry. You make you angry. Your partner doesn't make you sad. You make you sad. Your partner doesn't upset you. You upset you. Your emotions are based on your interpretations of the world. Your emotions are within you. Your partner has no control over your emotions. So by taking accountability and responsibility for our emotions, that unfortunately means that we can't blame our emotions on other people around us. We can't sit there and say, this person made me mad. It's not the way that emotions work. Now, therapists may not say that to you. Some good ones will, but the truth is that we need to take responsibility for our own emotions. We need to learn how to manage them. And that doesn't mean walking out of emotionally challenging situations. It means to learn how to be in emotional discomfort and still be able to act in the right way. So if you want your emotions to change, then you need to put in the work to do something about them. And this in a relationship involves building compassion and empathy for yourself, but also building compassion and empathy for your partner too. It involves having a very high level of emotional intelligence, constantly building that. The more that you manage your emotions, the less likely you're going to respond to anyone in a negative way. When you focus on fully managing your emotions, this means that you're not going to perpetuate a negative feedback loop. If you manage your emotions and take full responsibility of your emotions, that means that when somebody else has struggles with emotions around you, you're going to be able to keep a level head and you're going to be able to manage the situation in the best way possible. Next is to communicate. So 99% of people don't really understand communication. A lot of people think that it's saying things in a smart way or saying things in a, gotcha kind of way, or being able to like punitively punish someone in order to get them to understand. But the truth is that most communication is actually very simple. It's actually about listening. But listening is not some passive act. It's not letting someone speak. Listening is actually taking what somebody has said and being able to process it and being able to clarify with them, actually ask them and validate what they're saying, whether it's logically or emotionally. And this, even though it's very simple, is a skill that constantly needs to be built. There are many different levels, and this is something that I actually work on with my ultra normal members, is this ability to validate and being able to validate what people are saying emotionally and logically. So listening is not some passive act. It is very active. Oftentimes in relationships, a lot of people will blame their partner for not being a good communicator. The reason why I'm not a good communicator is because my partner is not a good communicator. But the truth is that good communication skills is the ability to lead a conversation, whether your partner has good communication skills or not. Communication is a dance. And if one person is a really shitty dancer, then the other person needs to take the lead to lead that conversation in order to get to the right resolution, whether that's emotional validation or whether that's getting through a logical challenge. You don't need two people to have a good conversation. You need one person who's a good leader in the conversation. And about 50% of the members that I work with have ADHD and have crafted themselves thriving relationships. So it is possible to build a healthy, thriving relationship with ADHD, but it takes one person to take that lead. So when it comes to ADHD relationships, even if your partner is a bad communicator, then you can still lead the conversation to the right resolution. And this kind of leads me to one of the most crucial points of all, which is within relationships, we can often point the finger of blame. And in ADHD relationships, we can point the finger of blame onto ADHD, or we point the finger of blame onto the ADHD partner. But I hope you've noticed that with all of these things can be done by you. And this is why it's so important to lead by example. Leading by example in any relationship actually inspires the relationship to grow in the right way. The more that you grow yourself and lead the relationship in the right way, the more your partner will start to eventually follow your lead and grow themselves as well. So whether you're the ADHD partner or the non-ADHD partner or both ADHD partners, it's important for you to take that first step and for you to start leading the relationship in the right direction. And that starts with getting rid of blame, getting rid of the blame of ADHD, getting rid of blaming your ADHD partner. Or if you're the ADHD partner, getting rid of blaming the neurotypical partner, getting rid of blaming the neurotypical world. It's getting rid of blame in order to take the responsibility of your role in the relationship and the way that you manage ADHD. And I actually made a deeper dive video into the cycle of ADHD blame, which I'll leave you with right here. And with that, guys, I will see you over there.